evening and welcome to the 985 Workbench. My name is Wayne and my call sign is KC3SQI. I will be tonight's host for the Workbench. I'm located in Campbellsville. The Workbench meets every Monday at 8 p.m. on the W3GMS Parkesburg repeater. Frequency 146.985 megahertz. The PL tone to access the repeater is 100 hertz. For those who use tone squelch on receive, the repeater transmits a squelch tone of 94.8 hertz. Newcomers are very welcome. We encourage all stations to check in. Please take a look at the repeater website located at www.W3GMSrepeater.com. It has lots of information including technical articles, pictures of 985 users in action, and repeater etiquette and history. Please be aware that on occasion the repeater experiences intermod interference. Please run maximum power or be prepared to check in digitally through Echolink or All-Star. We really want to hear what you have to say. Here on the Workbench, we focus on answering general amateur radio questions and discussing topics of radio theory and operation. Additionally, we invite each station to give a brief rundown of what they did in amateur radio this past week. Soon I will begin taking check-ins. When checking in, please indicate if you have a question for the Workbench this evening. Even if you don't have a question, please check in. After all stations have checked in, we will first share what we did this week and in a roundtable format. Please write down the call of the station that checks in right after you. When you have finished your comments, turn the mic over to that next station. Once we have all made our comments, we will start the question and answer portion of the Workbench, operating as a directed net. I will call for the first question in the list to be presented, and then for stations wishing to answer the question. Wait to be recognized by net control, me, before beginning a transmission. This will help us handle the questions efficiently and keep the net running smoothly. However, at times, there may be two stations who need to go back and forth to help clarify the situation or get additional information. Please do so when necessary, and then pass the mic back to net control. Some things to remember. These are things which are just good net practice and repeater practice. Leave a good pause between transmissions. This is important, especially to help our All-Star and Echolink stations participate. Then, click, think Mississippi, and then start talking. We want to make sure that we catch the first part of your statements. Also, let up on the PTT from time to time, something like this. There's no need to let the carrier drop. The repeater has an FCC required 3-minute timer. If you transmit beyond 3 minutes, the repeater will lock out you and everyone else until you release your PTT button. During the question and answer time, remember to turn it back over to net control when you have finished your comments. Before we begin, we would like to thank our host of Workbench hosts for volunteering to help make the workbench go. If you'd like to try hosting the workbench, please reach out to Jim, AF3Z, or any of us, and we can get you on the next schedule. Lastly, please join W3DIB on Thursday at 8 p.m. for the 9-It Found Roundtable. At this time, we're going to start the check-in process. Remember to indicate if you have a question for the group this evening. Digital stations using Echolink and All-Star, we will wait long enough to ensure that all digital stations have time to call in. Digital stations wishing to check into the workbench, please call KC3SQI.
This is W1RC in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Good evening. I have no questions, and stand by for a friend of mine up here who may try to check in, so leave a space for him because it's his first time. Go ahead.
Whiskey 8, Charlie Romeo Whiskey, CR, no question.
KA1PXZ in Vermont, no questions. Kilo Victor 3, Juliet Golf Bravo on location in Egg Harbor Township. Matt, no questions.
Okay, could I get the KA1 to repeat? I missed your last three letters on your call sign there. That was my fault.
This is KA1PXZ, Papa X-Ray Zulu, Kilowatt Alpha 1, Papa X-Ray Zulu.
Thank you very much. I got it that time. Okay, I have W1RC, W8CRW, KA1PXZ, KB3KGB. Are there any more Echolink or All-Star stations that wish to check into the workbench? Please call KC3SQI. Okay, having heard no extra check-ins, we will now start check-ins for RF and Echolink or All-Star. So please space them out a little bit, and this is KC3SQI.
Whiskey Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo, WA3, VEE, no questions.
NA3, CW, no questions. KC3OOK, question. KC3YSM, no questions.
W3 King Fox Tango, WA3 KFT. No question.
Kilo Delta 3 Alpha India Sierra. No question.
Okay, are there any more check-ins for the 985 Workbench? If so, please call KC3SQI. Okay, having heard no other responses, I have for the list W1RC, W8CRW, KA1PXZ, KB3KGB, WA3VEE, NA3CW, KC3OOK with a question, KC3YSN, WA3KFT, and KD3AIS. Are there any more check-ins or any corrections? Okay, with that, we will try to see if anybody had anything that they were doing for amateur radio this week. So, Mr. Mike, W1RC, take it away, KC3SQI.
Good evening to everyone here on the Workbench on W3GMS repeater. I didn't do much with ham radio this week, I'm afraid. In fact, I didn't do anything with ham radio this week. I had a bunch of other stuff going on, but, you know, there's always something to do and always something to play with, and good to be on here. Turn it over to W8CRW, CR, and say hello before, to my friend Phil, KA1PXZ, from up in northern Vermont. So go ahead, CR, and turn it over to Phil. W8CRW and the Workbench, W1RC.
Very good, Mr. Mike and Wayne. Thanks for taking the chair tonight. And I'd say welcome to Phil, KA1PXZ. I think he said he was from Vermont, and I know he was affiliated with Nearfest. And my week in ham radio, normal 985 activities. I picked up a ICOM radio a while ago, and I used it briefly up at Field Day on the call-in station, but I had time to finish setting it up and making a mount for the faceplate, and so now it's good to go. I had some people give me reports, and I had to adjust the output for the microphone, so everything is everything. With that, let's go to Phil, KA1PXZ, W8CRW.
Good evening, everyone. This is Phil, KA1PXZ, and I think it's my second time checking in on the net. I've checked in once before, I think, on this one, but it's been a while. So I had just spoke with Mr. Mike, W1RC, a little while ago and reminded me that was on, so thought I would check onto it and at least check in again. Let anyone know I'm still here. So my week at ham radio was somewhat uneventful. We're getting ready to head out on Saturday to Sussex. It's going to be my second or third time headed to Sussex, so looking forward to that and a little bit of vacation the week following down along through the Shenandoah Valley, and maybe, just maybe, a Parks on the Air activation or two from the Shenandoah National Park. But we'll see. We'll see what time allows while me and the missus are out there. Her call sign is KE1LEY. Very easy to remember since her name is Kelly, and she'll be with me along with the two canine companions, and we'll be traveling Skyline Drive for a couple days, I hope, after Sussex to Lancaster, and then Lancaster down through. But you were correct in Nearfest. I am in charge of Nearfest now, taking over from Mr. Mike. We're headed to Sussex to do a little advertising for Nearfest and maybe sell a few wares that I might bring with me. But in any event, that's about it for my week in ham radio. And so with that, I believe, KB8 KGB, I believe, was the call that was after me. So if I got that incorrect, sorry about that, but we'll turn it over to, I believe that was the correct call. This is KA1PXZ.
This is W3GMS. No problem. My call sign sometimes can be a little hard to remember. Kilo Victor 3, Juliet Golf Bravo. Not much here in radio. As I said, I'm down here in Egg Harbor Township, visiting my in-laws, having fun with the family and the extended family. I did try to hop on a couple repeaters down here. It's pretty dead down here. There are some repeaters down here, but I even looked up when some nets are, and they were not happening, which is interesting. So that's really it on my week in amateur radio. So I will hand it over to Ron. WA3VE, this is KV3JGB.
Good, Matt. Thank you so much. KV3JGB. And the Workbench group here. Turn down my monitor a little bit. There we go. This is WA3VEE, Ron in Westchester. Very, very good. I'd like to say also, welcome, warm welcome to Phil, KA1 Papa X-Ray Zulu. Very good to have you on board. Good to talk to you. And hopefully one of these days I'll get up there. I am, and as Mr. Mike knows, a very, very strong aficionado of Massachusetts, especially the Cape and Nantucket and so on. So, in fact, I'm actually a member of the Barnstable Amateur Radio Club remotely. So those guys do a nice job up there for sure. So I've worked a number of repeaters up there, and very friendly folks, especially out there on Nantucket. Didn't even know me, and they invited me to breakfast to join them out there, and so on and so forth. So all very good. And excellent on the XYL. I have KE1LEY, wonderful. Maybe you may want to shoot Mr. Mike a message or whatever and let us know when you're on. Maybe we can work you down there. I don't know what your arrangements are going to be, but it'd be pretty cool to do that. Of course, 40 meters daytime, no problem at all for Virginia for me here. Excellent. Let's see. Also very good on Nearfest. That's wonderful, and wish you lots of luck with that. I know it's one of the best ham fests around, I'm sure. Joe and I, W3GMS, go back many, many decades, and he always is singing the praises of Nearfest. So sooner or later, I hope I can get up there. Hold on. And not much in ham radio this week from me down here. However, I will remind anybody, if anybody has any photos from our field day, that's pretty much the activity this week, just recovering from field day and working 13 colonies. I got a clean sweep on both K3DTS, my club station, my group station, and also my VEE primary call, and also worked Whiskey Mike 3 Papa Echo Nancy, the William Penn extra bonus station, but didn't try for the other two. But nonetheless, clean sweep again, 4th year in a row. Wonderful patriotic contest. A lot of fun. And the QSL cards are just beautiful, absolutely. So, let's see. Anyone having photos from field day, please get in touch with me. I'd like to consolidate those this week and put them on SmugMug and send one link to everybody. That would be through Joe. So please send those over to me. My email address is good on QRZ. Of course, you wouldn't send the photos there, but if you want to know details about how to get them to me other than Google Drive or Dropbox, email me, and I'll be delighted to work something out with you. Okay, last thing here is, let's see. There's been a lot of bad news, of course, about the flooding in Texas, and I just wanted to advise folks, if you are not signed up for alerts in Chester County, please consider going over to readychesco.org. Ready, CHESCO, all one word, readychesco.org, and you'll get notifications both by email and on your phone. So I have that, have had it for years. It does really, truly work. Okay, with that, that's enough from me. Let's go over to Chuck, NA3CW, WA3VEE.
Give it a little room for jump-ins. Thank you, Ron, WA3VEE, NA3CW. Well, let's see. I think I finished getting all my belongings out of the field day site. I left my raincoat up there, and Tom told me where it was, so I went up and picked that up, and picked up a plug-in strip and a short extension cord, both of which were labeled in there. So I got all that, and then I called Joe to see if there's anything he wanted brought back, which turned out to be his little generator in the box and the gas cans. So that was, again, just continued field day recovery. Let's see, on the equipment front, about a year or so ago, I bought a Merch 2000 tuner. No way I'd put 2 kW through it, but it has the ultimate transmatch configuration and roller reductor and all that. I ended up having to rebuild the roller reductor and put proper bearings in it because what they had seized up. And the cabinet was a mess, and I knew it was when I bought it. It was dented up, and about half the paint was peeled off, which turns out to be a characteristic of that tuner, because they don't have any primer and they don't have any surface preparation on the bare aluminum, so it just scrapes right off. So this week I've been putting it off. So this week I stripped all the paint off it, and with some citrus strip and some freezer paper, and just peeled it right off. Then prepped the surface, primed it, painted it, and baked it in the sun yesterday, and doesn't look half bad. So it's a dark hunter green. So it is now back on the tuner, and it'll be months before it's fully hardened, but it looks pretty good. So that was that, and I got to host the Workbench Thursday night due to a scheduling mix-up, and that was kind of fun. So there you go. So over to Mr. Bill, KC300K. Hope you didn't drown down there. This is NA3CW.
NA3CW and KC300K. Well, thanks, Chuck. Wayne, thanks for taking the chair. And no, Chuck, didn't drown down here, and I quite honestly didn't know it had rained so hard until I saw the township out there with a loader scraping up the mud in front of the house. So we're still here. Not really much to report this week for radio for me. The usual nets. I've mostly just been in here in the shop and have some walnut wall cabinets that are, as of today, they are all done as far as I can work on them for a while. So they're getting packed up and put away. And tomorrow, I get to start on my operating station. Been trying to work on these cabinets diligent and get everything out of the way so I don't feel guilty. So that's the next project. So I'll turn it over to Steve, KC3YSM. This is KC3OOK.
Thank you, Bill. KC3OOK. This is KC3YSM, Steve in Downingtown. Good evening, everybody. Wayne, thanks for sitting in tonight, taking the chair. Not a lot to report with ham radio activities. Normal 985 nets. Had some 4th of July company for a couple of days, and I have been spending a little time. I think Ron knows, and CR, I spoke to you about it, but it's been bugging me with this backup plan for my radio, and I do have a whole house generator, but hate to have to fire up a whole house generator to get on the ham radio or plug in and charge up your cell phone, that type of thing. So been looking at, you gave me a nice suggestion, CR, looking at power stations, and been looking at, maybe I'm just going to move the big 12-volt 50 amp out of the car and bring that down here and get another battery for the car, and that's the way I've decided I'm going to go. Now, whether I need, and I'm open to hear some feedback and comments. It's like everything I'm looking at seems to get another question in my mind, and so I get my analysis paralysis. I'm looking at this and watching a video, and then I've got a question, and then I've got another question, but I guess West River Mountain Power Gates, that big power gate, would be something I can plug the battery into and not have to worry about overcharging the battery, and if power goes out, radio stays on. Well, do I really need that? Certainly I can come down and, okay, power is out and plug in and use a flashlight, but certainly looking for any feedback on that. Maybe it's just overkill for me here, but anyhow, that's about it for me. This is KC3YSM. John, I'll turn it over to you, WA3KFT. Here you go.
KC3YXM from WA3KFT. Okay, very good. I have a battery on a 12-volt bus for my radios. Most of my radios operate on 12 volts. Not all of them. I got some of them that run on 120 AC. Some nice boat anchors. Anyway, across the back of my operating table, I have a 12-volt bus. And one end is connected to a 12-volt battery, a car battery. Not a great big one, but a car battery. And the other end is a 35 amp power supply. Master switch turns the power supply on, and that float charges the battery so that somewhere along the way, if I lose AC power, the radios still play. So, well, at least the 12-volt ones will. Most of my time has been spent either tending the garden or cutting the grass or trimming the fence line or what have you. I do have an overabundance of rhubarb. I need to go through that patch and cut some out and cook it. I have been eating up my supply that I stowed away last year. I think I've eliminated any of them that I had in the freezer and so on through attrition. So, next up, KD3AIS to take it. This is WA3 King Fox Tango. Go ahead.
WA3KFT. Thank you, John. This is KD3AIS, Tim in Malvern. In the last week, I had two small accomplishments in ham radio. One was I finally took my Alpha Delta coax switches that had been sitting on a table and installed them on the underside of my desk, so that now when lightning happens, or is approaching, I can turn off my exterior antenna and be safe by grounding it through the switch. And as with all technical things like that, I have to credit KD3 NZT, my neighbor Harvey, otherwise I would not know any of this. The only other thing I want to mention is that I did stumble across a net on a repeater that I won't name, so I don't say anything negative about anybody, but the experience on their net versus this net or all nets here on this repeater was much different. I checked in and I was never acknowledged other than checking in, and was never given the opportunity to speak as a new person checking in, and no one was able to speak. It was simply a question that the three people who were on there seemed to already know the answer and already know each other. So it was just a different experience for me that I've been spoiled, I guess, now being on the 985 repeater to come across a different type of arrangement like that. So it's refreshing and another reason why I tune into this net. With that, I will send it back to Net Control KC3SQI Wayne. This is KD3AIS.
Okay, thank you. Glad everyone's had a good week. And at this time, I'm going to ask if there are any other check-ins for the 985 Workbench. Please call KC3SQI. Okay, having heard no inputs back, quick comment before we return to the questions. Workbench participation is most important. We encourage all stations to make comments and or observations and share experiences. Don't assume that your level of experience and knowledge isn't enough. We can all learn from each other and contribute to the discussion. So pick up the mic and have some fun. We'll now begin the roundtable session, starting with Bill, KC3OOK. I didn't hear any other questions, although I have one myself. So, Bill, KC3SQI, please pose your question.
KC3SQI, KC3OOK. Okay, well, my question is an antenna question, and it's in my, I guess, 4 years of listening to this repeater. I'm not sure that I've heard it mentioned, but I heard the term mentioned the other day, and I looked it up and read a little about it. So my question relates to slot antennas. I've never heard of them. I looked it up, and I just know the basic principle of them, that is basically a conductive plane with an opening in it that radiates, quote, similar to a dipole. And that the size of the opening, the shape, and the frequency determine the radiating pattern. But I can't find anything that really that I can understand about how does a slot antenna work. You know, there is a reference, I forget, Babinet's theory or something like that, and the math just loses me quickly. So, you know, in Ron's term about mathless AC theory, can anyone give me mathless slot theory? Back to you, Wayne. KC3SQI, KC3OOK.
Okay, thank you, Bill, KC3OOK. Slot antennas. Can anyone explain them so that we can all understand? Please call KC3SQI.
WA3VEE with a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If I might, Wayne, let me ask Bill. KC3OOKWA3VEE, are you saying SWAT as in SWAT team, Sierra Whiskey Alpha Tango, or SLOT, Sierra Lima Oscar Tango? Over to you, Bill.
Sorry, Ron, my diction is not great. SLOT, S-L-O-T, slot antenna, and I know they're used for UHF and higher frequencies, but slot antenna. And I also read that they're used in circuit boards as well.
Just wanted to clarify that. Well, it's not your diction, it's my hearing. Okay, I'll turn that, now that that's clarified, at least for me, it probably was for everyone else, but not for me. I'll turn it back to Wayne. KC3SQI, WA3VEE.
Okay, anyone want to help Bill out with a slot antenna?
CW? Just a little bit. I'm learning as I speak here. KC3SQI WA3VEE.
Okay, I had WA3VEE, but we had a double error. Who else tried to call in?
That was me, Wayne, NA3CW. I defer to Ron. Go ahead.
Dang it, Chuck, I was going to defer to you. I've heard of these things before. However, I have to trust Wikipedia here. That's. Let me see if I can just quickly paraphrase this. My understanding, and I just confirmed it here by looking this up. These are very high frequency antennas. And basically, they consist of a metal surface with a couple holes, one or more holes cut in it. And what I am understanding is that the RF is radiated through the holes, and it acts kind of like a dipole antenna. But I'm already at the limit of my understanding. So with your indulgence, Wayne, I'm going to turn it right over to Chuck here and see if we could figure out what these things actually are and how they work. That's an excellent question, Bill, by the way. NA3CW WA3VEE.
I've just read NA3CW. I've just read about them at the general hand waving level. I've actually seen, I was just starting to look it up online, where a really interesting concept for a disguised 2-meter antenna. By federal law, you're allowed to have a satellite dish on any property or piece of a property that is considered yours. That's federal law. And but in places that won't allow anything else. And so what you can actually do is take a satellite dish and cut a slot antenna slot in it. And from what I understand, you feed it across from the middle of one side of the slot to the middle of the other side of the slot with your two sides of your coax. I assume you need a balance. And get on 2 meters with a well-disguised slot antenna built into a satellite dish. I think that's pretty cool. It's not about the slot. It's from what I understand, it's not about the slot. It's about the edges of the slot. So if you imagine carving out a piece of wire all the way around the edges, that's the antenna. However, I have not studied this in any detail, and now you got my curiosity up. See what you've done. Back to net, NA3CW.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to take a swat at this slot antenna?
3NZT.
Okay, Harvey, take it away.
Wayne, I was just passing through the garage here and I heard the discussion about slot antennas, and I just wanted to throw this out there. There's quite a bit out there on slot antennas. They're very, very cool. The thing that I've seen that is the most interesting is because the orientation of the slot is perpendicular to its polarization. A horizontal slot is vertically polarized. And I looked into these a lot a while ago, looking for something to be able to put on the roof that is outside but stealthy. And there's tons of different designs, even with copper pipe. The long and the short being that the slot does not have to be in a straight line. It can be all kinds of different shapes. However, like a dipole, the center is where the most radiation happens, and the length of the slot determines the tuning frequency, but where you feed it from the edge changes the impedance. So a lot of the slot antennas that are done for 2 meter, there's a certain number of centimeters from the end of the slot that you can feed it to change its impedance to try to get it a good match for your radio. But there's a gentleman that made a couple of designs that won awards for vehicles. And what he ended up doing is placing the slot in a way where the entire antenna was only inches above, like, say, an RV or a semi-truck cab. And because it didn't need to be sticking up in the air to be vertically polarized, those designs won awards. I can't remember the gentleman's call sign off the top of my head, but if you pull it up, he has a whole suite of antennas. Some of them are cubes that are slot antennas, but the slot works with the geometry. It's very interesting stuff. But that's what I looked into when I was investigating that as a choice for an antenna. KC3NZT, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Harvey. Anyone else have any input for Bill? It's been so long since I played with those things back for satellites that I've forgotten almost everything I knew about them. I heard somebody key in, but I did not get any name or anything. Please call again, KC3SQI. Okay, yeah, it's been so long ago, Bill, that I would have to go back and do some brush up again, and I'll do some research and get back to you. So, does that help any? Or at least give you any other references to look into? KC3. Okay, this is KC3SQI.
KC3SQI, KC3OOK. Yes, Wayne, that actually helps a lot. And thank you, Ron and Chuck and Harvey. And I actually did a good bit of reading about it. And I did read what Harvey mentioned, that it is very directional, perpendicular to the plane, and that there's many different types. I know there's, you can have coplanar, you can have two conductive surfaces with a space and an insulating material between them, all different types. But Chuck, I wanted to thank you because maybe I'm learning a little bit. I was trying to understand how could this work, and my assumption was that it was the electromagnetic current ran around that edge of the slot. And so anyhow, something more to read about, and maybe someday it's looking like I will eventually have to take a math course, because to really understand things, I guess you eventually get to the math. But I do appreciate it. Something more to just to read up about. Go down the rabbit hole. So back to you, Wayne. KC3SQI, KC3OOK.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Are there any more check-ins or anyone other than myself with a question that would like to pose it to the workbench? Please call KC3SQI.
WA3VEE with a comment and also a question.
WA3VEE, go ahead.
Very good. This is to Bill. Bill, I sent you a link, so take a look at that. And from the, so I think you find that interesting. From the application standpoint, where these are used, from what I'm just learning here, literally, where these are used are in radar as one application. And you're quite welcome. I just got your email. You are absolutely quite welcome. What happens is in a waveguide, and for those who may not know what a waveguide is, and I can certainly understand that because they're not talked about a lot these days, this is either a circular or rectangular metal tube or channel through which RF, electromagnetic radiation, or RF, is transmitted and sent strictly by field through this circular or rectangular channel. And what happens is when it gets to the antenna portion, there are slots, and you'll see this in the Wikipedia article I referenced and the one that I sent the link to Bill on. You'll see that there are slots cut in the side of the waveguide, and basically those slots allow the RF to leak out. Boy, did I learn a lot on this workbench. I'll tell you what, Bill, thanks. It's not me who's teaching you this time. You're teaching me, and feel very proud of that because this is really intriguing stuff. So what happens is the RF just leaks out deliberately, and some of the conceptually. From just an explanation standpoint, I don't know that you need a lot of math. There are different modes and all that, but I don't think you need any of that to understand the basic concepts. And then I'll turn it back to you, Wayne, and I can pose my question at your pleasure. KC3SQI WA3VEE.
CW, comment?
Go ahead, Chuck.
I heard Harvey in there as well. I looked it up. The satellite dish one was done by John Portune. W6NBC, W6 National Broadcasting Company. He's done a lot of QST articles of interesting antennas. W6NBC. Look him up, and you'll see that article. Over to Harvey.
Chuck, I was going to say the same thing. Now, it's coming back to me, and my brain's not as fast as it used to be. But yes, I messed around with this actually more than I realized. I'm just looking through the stuff in the garage here. I have one of John Portune's design. I built a slot antenna for 2 meters. It's actually here. I never got to the point where it was on the air, but it's here. It's in the garage right now, and it has a feed point and everything. It's built. It just needs tuning and then testing. Made out of aluminum tape. It's the bent slot design that he came up with in one of his QST articles. But I was going to say I have no use for it. And Bill, if you wanted to play around with something like that, it's all built. It just needs tuned, and you just tune it by either adding or removing a little bit of foil tape. And you're welcome to it if you want. It's got a PL259 on it and everything. It's ready to go, and it could get you started. And then you don't have to worry about collecting all the stuff to do it. So I just wanted to offer that out. But yeah, on his website, W6NBC or ABC, whatever it was, it shows pictures of the one that he made for the roof, and then the one made out of copper as well that some other ham
built off of his design that is a cube that's extremely small. So second that 100%. And like I said, it's in the garage. If you want it, you know my address, so it's yours if you want it. KC3NZT, back to you, Wayne.
Oh, thank you very much, Harvey. Does that help you, Bill?
KC3SQI, KC3OOK. Yeah, it does a lot, and my interest is piqued. And Harvey, I appreciate the offer. After the ham shack's done, I'll get in touch with you. It'll probably be quite cold by then, but I think it'd be something interesting to learn about and play with. So I appreciate it. So back to you, Wayne. KC3SQI, KC3OOK.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that. What I remember about them was spending hours and hours and hours with an X-Acto knife, trimming either stubs or the width of the transmission lines feeding the stubs to make satellite antennas, very directional satellite antennas. And that was middle 1970s. So that's how long ago I played with them. So, but I'll go back through and see if I can help you a little bit more too. Okay, with that, do we have any more questions or comments for the workbench? Please call KC3SQI.
W3VEE.
W3VEE, go ahead.
I want to pose this kind of like a statement out there, as well as I guess a question, but more of a statement. But I think it was Tim who mentioned about the switch and grounding an antenna to prevent, to kind of like protect from lightning. The one thing to keep in mind is that lightning is bridging a pretty large gap when it goes from the cloud to ground. The gap between the center conductor of your coax and ground in a switch is just a little bit less than that space between the cloud and ground. In other words, it's like no space at all. And my suggestion would be to heavily consider, certainly the switch will drain away static, and it will drain away some charge, but definitely will not protect against a near hit because of the what we call spacing in engineering. High voltage will certainly jump across a very narrow space. My suggestion would be to make sure you disconnect from the outside. Here what I do is I disconnect the antennas outside and I keep the lightning completely out of the house. So I'm opening up for comments on that. Back to you, Wayne. KC3SQI. By the way, thanks for running the workbench tonight. KC3SQI, WA3VEE.
Any response or input back to Ron from you, Tim?
Thank you, Wayne. This is KD3AIS. Thank you, Ron, for that. I thought I might get some feedback on that, even though I didn't pose it as a question. And to be fair to Harvey, he did caution me that this is not protection against a direct strike or a very near strike, but then offered the maybe realistic advice that if I have a direct strike on my house, then maybe nothing's going to help me, and the house will go on fire. So everything, I guess, is a trade-off, but certainly would love to hear anyone else's view on that with regard to how you adjust your antennas when lightning is near or far. Back to Ned.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Anyone else have any lightning protection methods that they use to try to protect their equipment?
3Z, late check-in.
Okay. You have any inputs on lightning protection, Jim?
Good evening, everybody. Sitting here outside the camera club in the parking lot. Like Ron said, disconnecting is what I do as well, just disconnecting everything on the inside from the outside. Now, I have a pass-through panel, and it just sits there in the window. I don't have the outside disconnected from that panel. I do want to add a ground rod below that panel, not to protect the inside when the stuff's connected, but just so there's a path there from the cables down. But anyway, I don't know if that would help or not. But that's my only thing, is disconnecting. And one interesting thing I had for a while, for a balanced line lightning arrestor type deal, they make them, and you can make your own out of 2 spark plugs, one for each side of the balanced line. And what they told you to do with it is to adjust the spark gap so that at the point at your highest level of power output doesn't arc across, but it wouldn't take too much more, so that way anything a little greater than your signal strength will arc across. So talking about short little gaps, that gives us a little image of it too. So anyway, thanks for being there and hosting tonight, Wayne. AF3Z.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more suggestions for Tim? Please call KC3SQI. Okay, I have a little experience with lightning and whatever. My next door neighbor had a metal basketball hoop on about a 6-inch piece of pipe that was into the ground, and we had a storm come through here, and the lightning decided that it liked the top of that backboard post for the basketball and went down that and came through the ground and went through the ground in my house, blew all the light bulbs, and took out the stove. So if you get that close of a hit, there's not much you can do other than just close your eyes, shake your head, and say, okay, how much? But, for the small things, if it's building up a charge, which it will do with lightning, even though it doesn't strike or send a bolt of lightning, it can still build up enough charge to do some damage. So for that, grounding the coax through a switch will allow it to bleed off. Also, the connector. If you've got it unplugged, it will arc from the center conductor to the outside of the connector, and that will, as long as it's not plugged into the radio, also help, and try to keep it out of everything. But lightning doesn't do what you think all the time. So hope that helps. KD3 AIS, is that enough information?
It is. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback, and thank you, Wayne. I'll just add one last thing. In my own experience with lightning, before I ever had a ham radio antenna, we had a 100-foot eastern white pine next to the house, and the lightning hit that, and it ended up having a Harry Potter scar at the bottom of it, and keep on living. It zapped some of our lights at the time in the house, and I think I don't remember if I just had to reset the breakers. I don't recall. But that tree subsequently was killed by a pesticide called Imprellis. So it's not there anymore, and now I have the antenna at 35 feet. So all very good things to think about and caution me for, and I greatly appreciate all the feedback, and thanks to Ron for turning that into a question. This is KD3 AIS, back to net.
Okay, do we have any more check-ins or questions for the workbench? This is KC3SQI.
One further grounding question, KC3OOK.
Go ahead, Bill.
One question for the group on grounding is, I've read that when you disconnect your coax, that you can put it in a mason jar. It has to be a tempered jar. Is that actually effective? And I'm wondering, do I need to find... I actually have a big old water bottle here, but I'm realizing it's not tempered. So just wondering about that. Is that an effective solution? Back to you, Wayne. KC3SQI, KC3OOK.
Anybody want to help out Bill with the mason jar? KC3SQI.
T?
Go ahead, John. W3KFT.
This is WA3KFT. Bill, mason jar is glass. So basically what you've done is you've put an insulator around the coax connector. Glass is a good insulator. I don't know. I will say the extreme scenario would be if the coax is connected to an antenna and that antenna took a direct hit by lightning, the mason jar would probably be in pieces. But as long as you didn't take a direct hit, you've insulated the end with probably the best kind of insulation there is, glass. I don't think it would be nearly as effective if it were a plastic container. But a 1-quart mason jar, in the early history of electricity, they played with batteries, and the batteries were in glass jars. So that was one way to make a wet cell, a mason jar with plates and an acid. So I'm sure there's other ways of doing it. I will say if you can bury the coax between the antenna and the building or things like that, that certainly helps too. In my case, I can't do that. But I have a lot of blitz bugs and lightning arresters, especially since I have 14 coax cables coming into the radio station. This is WA3KFT.
Thank you, John. Any other response for Bill? Please call KC3SQI.
WA3VEE.
Go ahead, Ron.
Good, Wayne. I had heard about this placing the end of a coax in a glass jar, I guess, a couple years ago. So this isn't something that I ever did. And I kind of looked at the radio funny when I heard it, because it almost sounded like and I don't want to diss anybody at all on this, please don't take it that way, but it almost sounded like an old wives' tale. Because from what I'm thinking of the mechanism, that if you're going to take either a direct hit, if you have the end of the coax in a jar somewhere or whatever, or some kind of insulator like that, what are you really doing? Yeah, you're insulating the end of the coax from everything around it. But if you have a direct hit or a very strong near field hit, there's a lot of energy that is going to be that's going to appear, not necessarily conducted, but it's going to appear on everything that's conductive around it. And you've got that energy at the end of that glass, and that could cause it to shatter and explode, basically. So I don't know that, this is my estimation, up for discussion, debate. I welcome that, absolutely. Cheerfully welcome that. But to me, if you take a direct hit, I wouldn't want to be around that glass. KC3SQI, WA3. Oh, by the way, to finish the thought, again, the best thing is to do what John's saying and what Chuck is saying, is that you drain the static from the antenna with the blitz bugs or the polyphasers or whatever you want to use, okay, and you disconnect them. And when you disconnect them, the system, when you have the blitz bugs in there, those normally go to ground. So your system is your antenna's protected except for direct hits, and you've disconnected everything from the house. KC3SQI, WA3VEE.
Are there any more comments or suggestions? Please call KC3SQI.
3Z.
Go ahead, Jim.
Like Ron, I have no experience, so that means I can talk all I want. My only thought is not for the extreme case, because, yeah, I think with lightning in extreme cases, nothing works. But the one way I could see the glass jar being helpful, if you get something that's in the intermediate zone, you get some arcing and sparking maybe from the center conductor to the shield on the connector, at least that's, any arcing and sparking is insulated from around there. But I would much prefer to have the antenna disconnected outside and skip the jar. Back to you there, Wayne, AF3Z.
Okay. Any more comments or suggestions? Please call KC3SQI. KC3OK, does that answer your question?
KC3SQI, KC3OK. Thanks, Wayne. Yes, it does, and I'm glad I asked the question about the jar. I think we'll forego that and just disconnect outside. And I did want to also thank you, John. And John, you mentioned that batteries used to be in glass vessels. I retired in 2012, but up to 2012, they're still being used. All the central offices in the Bell buildings were all long tables with rows of rectangular glass vessels with acid in them and electrodes hanging down and going up the bus bars. So that's I don't know if they've ever switched to anything else, but Bell was still using them. So thanks a lot, Wayne. Back to that, KC3OOK.
Okay, are there any other questions or logins? Please call KC3SQI.
KC3WWC, Whiskey Charlie, late check-in.
Okay, thank you much. Any other questions?
KD3EMS, late check-in.
KC3TYX, late check-in.
Okay, would the last three wish to give us what you did in amateur radio this week? Just a synopsis.
This is KC3WWC, do I have it?
Yours.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. This past week I replaced that NFED half wave with shorter NFED random wire to run that experiment to see how it does. I liked it the first time I had it up. I expect I'll like it the second time I have it up, and it might be more consistently always needed the tuner. I also discovered that I broke my UV Pro, the VTech radio with APRS and a TNC and all that cool stuff. The VHF side was not transmitting with any power. So the APRS stopped working and all that. Like people weren't hearing me, so I sent that back for repair. I think that's about it. Back to, let's see, who was after me? I remember KC3TYX was in there. Take it away. This is KC3WWC.
This is KC3TYX. I think there was somebody between us, John, but I'm not sure who it was. I'll be quick. This past week, just messing with 13 colonies. I did end up getting a clean sweep, so I always like that contest. That's it for me. Send it back to you, Wayne, KC3TYX.
Okay, KB3EMF. This is KC3SQI. What did you do in ham radio for the week?
Good evening, SQI. This is KD3EMS. This was the week of satellite. Had very good success with hitting the space station a couple times. Satellite SO50, Sierra Oscar 50, has been very successful. I've been able to hit that almost every pass going over. So that was, with being a newer ham, it's definitely a lot of fun. I was pretty impressed with how easy it is. I didn't think it was quite that easy. But as easy as it was, I found it to be relatively easy to communicate on those. Yeah, that was probably the interesting thing so far over the week. Other than that, that's about it. So back to you. This is KD3EMS.
Okay, are there any other late check-ins? This is KC3SQI. Okay, my question is on using EasyNEC and trying to look at antennas and determine whether or not I could put the 2 meter, 70 centimeter Diamond X300 be a hex beam instead of trying to stack it over it, and some of the hex beams don't have thick enough walls on the center shaft to be able to support that. So does anybody have anything for EasyNEC for the model for the X300, or just use the distance, just use the length of it, and say 1/8 of an inch diameter for the rod? Asking for input. KC3SQI.
KFT.
KFT, go ahead.
I have a set of beams on one tower and a set of vertical antennas on another tower. And the height is such that the beams and the verticals are, I'll say, horizontally about the same height above ground. And I don't notice any interaction or lack of or what have you. The beams are directional like they should be. The verticals are omnidirectional like they should be. And the beams don't seem to interact with any of the verticals and so forth. The 6-meter Ringo and the 6-meter beam are the closest to each other at certain positions of the rotation of the beam. And it doesn't appear that there's any interaction between the two of them. WA3KFT.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other input? KC3SQI. Hey, I think I've beat that one to death for myself, so I will just go ahead and we'll go with that. So that's... before we close down the workbench for the evening, I'd like to know if there are any more late check-ins. Please call KC3SQI.
W3GMS with a question.
Okay, go ahead. KD3EMF, go ahead.
Probably a really simple question here. I'm just trying to see what the census is. If you're traveling, for example, we're going to the Outer Banks in a couple weeks. When you're traveling, are you typically just listening to the national calling frequency? Are people programming, like looking ahead on repeater book and programming in like actual repeaters? You know, if you're going to be staying somewhere for a while, for like a week or so. I just kind of had questions about that as far as I haven't had any experience with traveling. I've been doing all my contacts here at home. So I was just trying to see what maybe somebody had some suggestions for as far as traveling.
W8CRW. W3VEE.
CR, go ahead and then turn it over to Ron.
Good. You can get repeaters along your path pretty easily. You know, different programs are out there. My experience, though, is that most places you go, you'll be a stranger and nobody will talk to you. So that's the unfortunate part about how ham radio has devolved in a certain way. Ron, pick it up. W8CRW.
Wayne, if I can ask your indulgence for a second and ask the station with the question, what kind of radio do you have? First of all, is it 2 meter and 70 centimeter, or is it single band? This is WA3VE. I think it's KB3EMF. Jerry, I'm not sure if that's you or not, but if I might just go ahead and pick it up for a second and answer that one question.
Hey, this is Chris. Kilo Delta 3, Echo Mike Sierra. No, it's a Yaesu with an FT150, so it's dual band, 2 meter, 70 centimeter.
What I generally do, and I've traveled to New England, up in Rochester, New York, down south, all over the place, I use RT System software, and I do use Repeater Book, and I've had quite a bit of good luck actually working other repeaters in certain areas. And yeah, most of the time, in general, repeaters are pretty dead. This one is a real exception, I could tell you. This is a real exception as the rules go. So yeah, I support what CR says. Don't be surprised if you don't get a lot of interaction. However, I would highly suggest, for interest more than anything else, program your rig, and then it's very easily done with RT. I've tried Chirp, but I can't. Everything over here is RT. It's hard to convert from RT to Chirp. But that's another option. Chirp is free. It's a little quirky as far as I'm concerned, but it's free. And then what I would suggest is, as you go down, as you program for geography. In other words, as you're going down the Outer Banks, if you're going to go down through Norfolk across the Bay Bridge Tunnel and down that way through Norfolk and Newport News and Hampton and all that stuff, program your radios in order so that you can go from one channel to the next. That's what I do, and it seems to work fairly well. The last thing I'll mention is look at the stations, the clubs, and so on along the way. Find out when their nets are, especially if you're staying in an area. Look when their nets are, and if they're open nets, that's another way that you can actually get in. I've done that up in New England on Cape Cod. In fact, I became a member of the Cape Cod Radio Association up there, believe it or not, living down here. So that's my input. Wayne, back to you. KC3SQI WA3VEE.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with some information for Chris? Please call KC3SQI.
KC3OOK.
KC3WWC.
Okay, we got Bill, KC3OOK, and then turn it over to John, KC3WWC.
Thanks, Wayne. KC3SQI, KC3OOK. Well, first, real quickly, I kind of agree with CR's sentiments and also what Ron said. One handy feature if you're traveling, because sometimes you get in and out of repeater ranges fairly quickly, but if your radio has the scan for PL tone, that is a really handy feature when you're traveling. If you're just in VFO scan, if you hear an active repeater in your travels, you can, once they unkey, it'll pick up your PL, and you'll be able to, you don't even really have to program it, you'll be able to work the station. So that's kind of handy traveling. I personally just use 520 more, and sometimes you hear something, sometimes you don't. I just program in the repeaters in the area where I'll be staying once I get there. Then you have a better chance of maybe working people if you're there a few days. And we do in the Lancaster County net, a lot of people travel on vacation here. You do hear some people traveling that'll check in, but some nets are definitely friendlier than others. So that's it. And over to John, KCG. KC3WWC, KC3OOK.
Thanks, Bill. This is KC3WWC. In my experience, I've gone to the trouble to pre-program and then get there and find out that it's very quiet. And it was a waste of time. So more often I will fire up Repeater Book when I get somewhere, because Repeater Book on my phone, because it will use location, and it will show me what's nearby by distance, and I can kind of pick and choose and add some later. But before that even, my cheap little radio has a pretty cool little spectrum analyzer kind of thing, which is like a fast scan. If you have a fast scan, you're good too. And I'll just scan 146-ish, 144 to 148, or up and do the UHF band if that's too quiet. I'll just scan and see what I hear. And I've found some cool things that way, and then I can go look it up in Repeater Book to see what is it, what's PL tone and all that. The one time I was in Pittsburgh, I picked up the local university's Pitt's repeater, and they were doing a closed net to close the street for I guess it was CMU, it wasn't Pitt, but they were doing the buggy races where they'd race these engineering vehicles, and they were opening and closing the street and reporting on who came by and all that. So it was cool to listen to. So I'm more of a lurker. I just like to listen. So So scan is really good for me. Back to net, KC3 WWC.
Okay, any more comments or input for KD3EMS? Does that answer your question?
That was actually very helpful. I never really considered the scan option, so no, that's actually extremely helpful. So thank you very much for that.
Okay. Thank you much. Are there any more late check-ins or any more questions? Please call KC3SQI. Okay, I want to thank all sections for... Okay, let's start that one again, and I'll unravel my tongue from around my eye teeth so I can see what I'm saying. I want to thank all stations for checking into the 985 Workbench. A big thank you to Joe, W3GMS, for allowing us to use the repeater for the Workbench. Please remember to join us this Thursday at 8 p.m. for the 985 Roundtable. Remember to use the repeater often. It's a great way to show that you appreciate the gift of 985 to the amateur radio community. This is one of the most active repeaters in the area. It is also the only repeater to have a workbench-style net as well as a roundtable. This concludes the Workbench for tonight. We now return the repeater to normal amateur use. Feel free to stick around. Have a good night and a great week ahead. 7-3. This is KC3 SQI. Clear.